Our story today is about Sonia Sotomayor, a judge grows in the Bronx by Jonah Winter. Sonia Sotomayor. This is also illustrated by Adele Rodriguez. You never know what can change. You never know what can happen. Sometimes the most beautiful moonflower blossoms in an unexpected place. A chain link fence near broken glass next to an abandoned building, watered by someone whose name you might not even know. So, if you notice in this story, they have the English version and the Spanish version. So, any of you that can read Spanish, this might be helpful or fun for you as well. And sometimes the most amazing person blossoms in just such a place as well. So it was with a little girl named Sonia. Her blossoming began with her mother's love and hard work. Oh, how Sonia's mother loved her. She worked night and day and night at a switchboard operator just so she could pay for Sonia's and her brother's private schools. She had never made it past the third grade when she was a girl, but she was sure she wanted her children to. They lived in public housing project in a part of New York called the South Bronx, a place where most people had precious little money. And Sonia's family was no different, with only their mother to support them. You see, Sonia's father had died when she was 9 years old, leaving just an empty chair and much sadness. But you can't give in to sadness when your children need to eat. This is why Sonia's mother worked and then came home and cooked pork chops. To Sonia, this was heaven. Oh, how she loved her mother. When Sonia's mother wasn't cooking or working, she was studying. She wanted to become a nurse so she could make better wages and help her children even more. When Sonia slept, sometimes her mother stayed up until midnight doing her homework. There was nothing she would not do to help Sonia and her brother. Sonia loved the world her mother gave her. Her mother and father were from Puerto Rico, and Sonia grew up surrounded by the tastes and sounds of Puerto Rican culture. A favorite meal was Spanish rice and beans, and she loved the big family parties where merengue music filled the air. Arriba! On Saturday nights, Sonia's family and friends would get together while the grown-ups sat in one room playing dominoes. Sonia and her cousins played Loteria, a Latin American bingo game. Sonia's abuelita would shout out the numbers while the grandkids marked their cards with chickpeas. Sonia's family surrounded her like a warm blanket. And she was also surrounded by books, school books, library books, a set of encyclopedias her mother had saved all her pennies and nickels and dimes to buy. And when the schoolwork was done, there were her favorite books. the Nancy Drew mystery novels. Nancy Drew was a girl detective who was always on the go, solving crimes. She was unstoppable. That's who Sonia wanted to be. But then something happened that made her change her mind. When she was only 8, her doctor sat her down and told her some bad news. She had a disease called diabetes. If you have diabetes, you have to take several shots of medicine a day for the rest of your life. So maybe she wouldn't be Nancy Drew. But that didn't mean she couldn't be unstoppable. Her favorite TV show was Perry Mason, about a courtroom lawyer. One episode ended with the image of a judge, the most powerful person in the courtroom. A light bulb went on above Sonia's head, and she knew she would become a judge. Becoming a judge, though, that's not easy. Sonia knew she'd have to get really good grades to become a judge. So while other kids may have been goofing off, Sonia was studying at her mother's kitchen table, year after year after year after year. It paid off. By the time she graduated high school, she had won an award for being the very best student in her whole school. What an honor! You can't imagine how proud her mother was. This was her daughter, her Sonia. What an honor! Sonia's grades were so good that she was accepted at one of the very best colleges in America, Princeton University. This too was an honor, but Princeton was not the Bronx. Where were the subways? Where was the merengue music? Where were the people who looked like her? For the first time in her life, Sonia felt scared and shy and very out of place, almost like she was on a different planet. During her first week, she heard a cricket in her dorm room, and it scared her. What was this strange insect? As it turns out, it wasn't in her room, but on a tree outside her window. Growing up in the projects, Sonia never had a tree outside her window. And growing up in the projects, Sonia never had the sorts of luxuries her classmates took for granted. Most of the Princeton kids had grown up taking tennis lessons and vacationing in Europe. They went skiing over Christmas break. Many of their parents and grandparents had gone to Princeton too. Suddenly, Sonia was aware of being poor, of being Latina, of feeling inferior. Where was the warm, comfy blanket of her family? Oh, how she missed them. In similar shoes, some people may have gone back home, but Sonia was like a flowering vine that would not stop growing. She would not just survive this strange new world, she would thrive. She would spend her first summer break reading all the books she'd never had time to read before, to make herself even smarter. She would become the head of a club for the handful of Latino students at Princeton. She would push herself to her limits, studying day and night and day at the library, and graduate with the highest honors of any student in her class. Success comes to those who make the most of the chances they are offered in life. Sonia did become a judge, and a good judge too. She was known for working very hard and always being very prepped for every trial. She was also known for having no patience for lawyers who weren't prepared. You better not mess with Judge Sonia. Yet she was known for much more than this. Unlike many judges, she had grown up in poverty. She had grown up as a child of Puerto Rican parents. She had seen things most other judges had not. People she'd grown up with had gone to jail. People she'd grown up with were poor. And many of them weren't as lucky as she had been. They'd had trouble speaking and learning to speak English, trouble finding jobs. Unlike many judges, she knew firsthand what prejudice was, what it was to be judged for your background. In the world of judges, this made Sonia very special. Oh, but Sonia, the very special judge, did not stop there. No, 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 no. You see, Sonia was offered the chance of a lifetime. She was invited to the White House by none other than President Barack Obama. Because President Obama had decided to nominate Sonia to the best job a judge could possibly have, to be a Supreme Court justice. Justice is a fancy word for a judge. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the nation. Supreme Court decisions help shape the law of the land. This was huge. Gulp. There had never been a Latin American on the Supreme Court. How strange this was. There are so many people of Mexican, Puerto Rican, Dominican, and Cuban descent, adding color to the great garden that is America. Why shouldn't all these people have someone who understands their lives on the Supreme Court? She was one of the most respected judges in the country. She was the perfect choice. This was an honor beyond anything Sonia, in all of her beautiful flowering, had ever imagined. But at the announcement ceremony, Sonia spoke about her mother rather than herself. I have often said that I am all I am because of her, and I am only half the woman she is. Then, speaking straight to her mother in the audience, she said, "I thank you for all that you have given me and continue to give me." Her mother cried and cried. This was her daughter. It wasn't over, though. There were some bumps on the path to the Supreme Court. A broken ankle, which didn't slow her down one bit. And angry people calling Sonia names like racist just because she was proud to be a Latina judge and not ashamed to say it. And days of tough questions from a panel of 19 senators, a row of white faces, most of them male. But this didn't stop her. Nothing could stop Sonia. The dynamo from the Bronx, from making history as the nation's first Latin American Supreme Court justice, you never know what can happen, especially when you water a flower. Author's note. In America, we like to believe that anyone, regardless of their background, can achieve great things. It's called the American dream, and Sonia Sotomayor is a wonderful example of it. Rising from humble beginnings to become the first Latin American Supreme Court justice. Here is a very inspiring and very American story. But not all of it could fit in this book. Here are a few extra details and explanations of her life, her struggle, and her success. Sonia Marie Sotomayor was born on June 25th, 1954, in a rough part of New York City called the South Bronx. When she was 3 years old, her family moved from a tenement building to the Bronx-Dale houses. Like most project tenants, Sonia's family did not have a lot of money, but still, she knew they were more fortunate than her cousins and aunts and uncles back in Puerto Rico, whom she visited every summer. Home in America, Sonia attended good grades, which her mother worked very hard to send her to, and enjoyed small indulgences like going to see baseball games at Yankee Stadium. Before being appointed to the Supreme Court, Judge Sotomayor was a lawyer and a judge and held many different positions. Her first job after law school was as the assistant district attorney in Manhattan. A district attorney is a lawyer who prosecutes criminals. She held the position from 1979 to 1984 and then decided to work as a lawyer for a law firm. There, she sometimes went with the police on dangerous raids. It's even been said that she once rode on the back of a motorcycle while chasing a criminal through China.